Can you introduce yourself first, actually?
Okay, my name's James Cook. I'm the store manager of Turnbull Asser at Jermyn Street, but I've worked for the company for 25 years. So where I met David, I worked in the New York store. I worked here originally, went to Bespoke next door, and I've run the Davis Street store in Berkeley Square.
And you have an amazing memory, but do you remember what you measured me for?
Yes, it was a Casino Royale shirt, wasn't it?
You are unbelievable. And I've been put in my place.
Wasn't there a video as well or something?
Not back then.
No.
Alas, I was not
yeah.
technically astute.
Yeah. Well, I watch you on Instagram. Yeah,
Okay, great.
You won't know I'm watching though, because I don't have
I
my
apologize for that, then.
Don't worry. But that was a long time ago. So, Turnbull Asser, I'll quickly tell you about Turnbull's. It's been around since 1885. And this area, St James's, is famous because the court of St James, obviously the aristocracy follow the king. So all the clothing companies would come to this area. So you have Savile Row for the suits, the shirts Jermyn Street, and on St James's you had glovers, you had the chemists, you had hat makers, because obviously when you're at that level you have to get to the customer, where today everyone goes shopping. So that's why this area is quite famous for shirts. And I'm sure if you're a Bond fan, you know that really Ian Fleming never wrote where James Bond got his clothing from, but he did say Jermyn Street. So Terence Young, the first director, who was actually a customer, he actually introduced Sean Connery to have shirts made. So I can actually show you the actual spot where Sean Connery was measured.
Oh, fantastic.
But it was all, to be honest with you, it was staged because the pattern cutters who were measuring him, they didn't want to be on camera. But they had a very young man called Michael Fish, who became very famous himself, and he was the one measuring because he was young. And
Weatherman, Michael Fish.
No,
I was like, hang on.
he was man about town. It was in the 60s where like the working class and upper classes were mixing, and suddenly he would be working in the Embassy Club in the evening and he was a floor walker here, and he just brought in the great and the good, and you know it was that period, and they called it swinging 60s. They always talk about Carnaby Street, but really it was the places like this that some of the things that were being made.
He's recently just passed on, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was in a coma for a long time, sadly.
Yeah.
There was an exhibition at the Jewish Museum, and they had some of his ties, but he put Mick Jagger in a dress on the concert in Hyde Park and things like that. So when you see these flamboyant things, that's all Michael Fish. Yeah. So obviously Terence Young brought Sean Connery here, and that's why we kind of got involved. And I don't think at the time they most probably didn't realise it was going to be that successful. But obviously, as you can see now, there's
Unbelievable.
still going on. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So
David, so please, where are we now and what are we doing?
So we are in the celebrity entrance of Turnbull Asser. So this is where Daniel Craig would go to get measured, and he would never go to the front stop. So if you were of that celebrity level, you would go to this location right here and have a very private moment. This is the Bespoke area, of course.
So Daniel Craig has a natural in here. This is his entrance.
if I could, there's a customer on that side. If we keep on this side and just
Oh, fantastic.
We've got more. These are the shirt patterns of Winston Churchill.
And James, I think some people were walking at the time, but Daniel Craig, for example, would be measured here.
Yes,
he was measured.
Daniel Craig was measured here, so he would stand here like any other of our customers. When you stand here, you know that there's been people maybe greater or you know, so it's hallowed turf here really. The people who stood here, I could name quite a few, but all types of characters. Famous, but yeah, and he'll be here, and then I think he came on his own actually, just to be measured. So Mr. Quinn or George would have measured him and then make up a pattern, and then everyone gets a file, you know, so you get a shirt bag with all your measurements, so you'll have one of these, and then all these basically get put onto the computer, but the actual pattern gets sent physically because they need to make
So
the
that
shirt.
aspect of creating an actual pattern, that really hasn't changed in many years.
No, it hasn't changed at all. The only thing that's changed is the way we make shirts today. And you know, as we said, it was people weren't so. You know, a shirt was an undergarment.
Yeah.
It wasn't on show. So if you look at Sean Connery's shirt in Dr. No,
Mhm.
it's actually quite loose.
Yeah.
But today, people, you know, they
Fitted.
want everything fitted, and
Right.
it's on show. No one necessarily wears jackets. So that's what's changed, is the way we do things. But actually, you'll notice people are going away from such fitted shirts now. You notice less.
It's
people-
coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same with pants. You know,
Yeah.
the skinny pants versus, and pleats are coming.
That's it. Yeah. People want to be more relaxed, or
Yeah. It's like one pleat at a time. So you get
That's
the
it.
one pleated versus the two pleated.
pleat,
Yeah.
and then it go back again.
Yeah. Then we'll get hammer time pants. You know. Then we'll get
Well, you do see that in yoga. But yeah, so that's really what we do, really. But we have looked after Turnbull's. When you talk about the spy game, the Cambridge spies were customers in the front store. Yeah, so Anthony Blunt and people like that. So we do have a lot of people in the gentlemen's clubs who come in. We never know what they do for a living, so we don't know. You know, if there is a. Some people believe Ian Fleming may have been a customer. We don't really have a record of it.
Well, you talked about Connery, you talked about Craig. Brosnan, was he measured here as well?
Piers Brosnan, that's a very interesting story. Mr. Cuss, who was the Royal Warrant holder before Mr. Quinn, he flew to Ireland to measure him. And I don't think Piers Brosnan realised how long it took to measure. And Piers Brosnan said, "Oh, is that it?" He said, "Yeah, well, okay, I'll take you to the pub." So they went to the pub and had a good pint of the black stuff, I believe.
Oh, that's
that was in
fantastic.
Ireland. Yeah, so that's quite amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And there's also a story that I believe Turnbull and Asser had to go visit Daniel Craig on set because his muscles were getting too big.
Yeah, no, that's true. You know your history. Yeah, Simon, who was, I think in our, I don't know if he was in our New York store. Yeah, he was in our New York store. Unfortunately, you measure somebody, and then the film studios obviously bulk Daniel Craig up for that beach scene, you know, that's famous, and suddenly the shirts don't fit, so they had to fly someone to Bahamas from New York to go and measure Daniel to make sure his shirts fitted.
Yeah, they said his shoulder and his bicep were like small bowling balls.
Yeah.
He had gotten so big for the beach scene.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible for the shirt, you know. So that happens a lot with our customers.
Yeah.
They change shape all the time. So we do something called check measures. So you'll find customers we've been serving for years, their files get very large because they keep changing their body shape. And some people have different shirt patterns, casual, formal, for shooting, sports, and things like that. Yeah. So.